My voice is a little bit shot. As seems to be the tradition here at Bhakti Center, I end up always doing a welcome kirtan for my Guru Dev. And I always end up leading like 4 hours straight without any microphone. So I have to sing high and loud, which having a black body is very difficult. But when you're doing it for a long, extended period of time, the next morning, you can feel the effects on the voice. My voice is a little shot. Class will be a little short today. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami is now offering us a Palasturuti for ruminating on the instructions of Manashiksha and also singing them loudly and sweetly. So let us hear. Palasturuti means the fruit of hearing or the fruit of chanting this prayer. So he says here, Manashiksha Daika Dashakavanametan Madhuraya Giragayat Yuchai Samadhikata Sarvartatatiya Sayuta Shri Rupa Nuga Iha Bhavam Gokulavane Janorada Krishna Tula Bhajana Ratnam Salabate. This translation here. Anyone who, adopting the line of Sri Rupa and his followers, takes up residence in Gokulavan and loudly sings these 11 excellent instructions to the mind in a melodious voice with full understanding of their meaning, will certainly obtain the matchless gem of worship, being Shri Shri Radha Krishna. So, Jano Radha Krishna Tula Bhajana Ratnam Salapate. This is the last line. So he who wants to attain the Bhajana Ratnam. So Bhajana Ratnam, Atula Bhajana Ratnam. So the word Atula means incomparable. And Ratnam means jewel, the incomparable jewel of Bhajan. So anyone who wants to obtain that incomparable jewel of Bhajan, unto whom? Unto Radha and Krishna. Where Ihan Bhavam Gokulavane. In this Gokulavan, Gokulavan means Braja, anywhere in the 84 Krosha area. So they want the incomparable jewel of Bhajan to Radha Krishna and Braja, Sayuta Sri Rupanuga, and they're following Sri Rupa Goswami. Sri Rupanuga means the followers of Sri Rupa. Sayutaha and his people or his followers. So Sri Rupa here, Sri Rupa Anuga. To be a follower of Sri Rupa means to be a follower of Sri Rupa and his Sadhaka Deha and also in his Siddha Deha, as we've been discussing throughout these prayers. These instructions as they pertain to Rag Bhajan means that there has to be following, and both the following of the Braja Loka Anusarata. Anusarata, Anushrita, Anuga, these words are basically synonymous here. So we should follow them in both the Sadhaka Deha and also in the Siddha Rupa. So to be a follower of Sri Rupa means to be a follower of Sri Rupa Goswami and the Sadhaka Deha, and a follower of Sri Rupa Manjri in the Siddha Deha. Sayutaha means and his people, the parampara that is coming down through the Goswami line, basically. So you want that incomparable jewel of Bhajan to Radha Krishna in Braj, following Sri Rupa and Sadhaka Deha and Siddha Deha, and those people who are in his line. So if you want that, then this next statement is important for anyone who wants that. If you don't want that, then this statement is not so important. But if you are wanting that because your ruchi for Braj Bhakti has been awakened by the association of and mercy of Krishna or his Bhakta, Krishna ta Bhakta Karunya Matra, what is that? I'm forgetting the verse. Only by Krishna ta Bhakta Karunya Matra Hetaika Hetukam. I'm missing a verse statement here. Only by the karunya, mercy of Krishna or his bhakta. Matra means exclusively. So exclusively by the mercy of Krishna or his bhakta. This is the exclusive cause of the manifestation of ruchi for Braj Bhakti. There are no other cause for this ruchi for Braj Bhakti to come. This is the only cause. It is not that, oh, by doing Vaidhi Bhakti, then gradually it will mature into Rag Vajra. That is a popular idea. No. Sri Rupa Goswami is clearly told, Krishna ta bhakta karunya. I'm missing something. Matra ka hetuka. Some word I'm missing. Matra labhaika hetuka. That is what I'm missing. The matra labhaika hetuka, the exclusive cause of the attainment of Rag Bhajan is Krishna or the mercy of Krishna's bhakta. So if you have guys of such mercy, then this thing, Radha Krishna Atula Bhajana Ratnam, that is going to be important for you. So then he's giving a statement here. Manashiksha dhaika dashakava rameta madhuraya gira gaya tuchai samada gita sabharta tatiya. So it says for these people who want that incomparable jewel of bhajan, then these 11 excellent verses which give instructions to the mind. Manashiksha da ekadashaka, but these 11 instructions, excellent instructions, but which gives instructions to the mind, they should be sung loudly and sweetly. Madhuraya gira gaya tuchai. Loudly, uchai means like aloud. And madhuraya gira, with sweet voice they should be sung. And also samadhikata, sarvata tatiya. Samadhikata means one should ruminate deeply on the meanings of the verses. So we did a little bit of discussion of the verses in the last 2 weeks or so, 2.5 weeks. Samadhikata, where we've tried to, samadhikata means here, it basically means like rumination, allowing the verses to be transcreated in your own psyche. So you hear, and after hearing, then you have to deliberate upon them. This is the general method of bhajan. First there's shravanam, then there's manana, and then there's nididhyasana. So shravana means hearing from the guru. Manana then means deliberating on what you heard in order that you may integrate it or assimilate it into the psyche. And then nididhyasana means meditation. This means after it has become part of you, then it becomes your contemplative life, basically. Before it becomes part of your contemplative life, you have to integrate the meanings. So that is called as manana. And then after you integrate the meanings, this is called as nididhyasana. Then your inner life will consist of, at least this will be an aspect of your inner life, the meditation on, for example, the manashiksha. So samadhigata, sarvata tatiya, and etan madhuraya gira gayanti uchai. Sing aloud and sweetly, either to yourself or in the company of other like-minded Vaishnavas. And samadhigata, ruminating on these 11 excellent instructions to the mind. Then certainly you'll attain that incomparable jewel of bhajan to Radha Krishna in Braja, following the Sri Rupa Nuga Varga. So this, he is giving one blessing to us, that this will be our wealth, that we can recite, sing these verses sweetly, and meditate on them. So I'd like to again point out, as I've been pointing out throughout these discussions, the relationship of the vocal prayer and the mind. Tanama rupa charitadi sukir tananu shmrito kramena raksana manasiniyoja. So the tongue is engaged in sukirtan, which Raghunath Das Goswami said here as sweetly singing aloud these 11 instructions. And the mind, samadhikata, anushmriti, is engaged in continuous remembrance or rumination or transcreation of the meanings in the psyche. And in this way, you create that feedback loop. I need a better phrase. Feedback loop sounds too clinical, but I mean, that's kind of what it is. The feedback loop between the vocal prayer and also the mental rumination. Whatever you sing goes into the mind, and whatever is in the mind comes out the mouth. In this way, you create this link between voice and mind. You can even say voice and heart. And this is the essence of Gaudiya Bhajan. This is the essence of Gaudiya Bhajan. That it's basically about singing and about remembrance. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Mahaprabhu, when he would go into these bouts of ecstasies, he would immediately sing a verse, usually from the 10th canto Srimad Bhagavatam. And then Swarup Damodar Goswami was always there to supply other verses and other songs to help nourish Mahaprabhu's sentiment at that time. And sometimes Mahaprabhu himself would supply the song. He would sing some verse from Srimad Bhagavatam would come out of his mouth. And then immediately he would give the import and song to that particular verse. And after giving the import, he would be lost in a meditation on that particular reality. Just like, for example, once Mahaprabhu, he woke up in the middle of the night and Gambhira, and he was remembering Krishna's Jalkeli pastime. Jalkeli pastime means the water sports after the Ras Leela. So, and as he came out of Gambhira mystically, no one knows how he ever gets out. There's only one exit. And that time also someone is there. I think that time Shankar Pandit, he was called as the pillow of Lord Chaitanya. You know, Shankar Pandit, he was pillow. Because Mahaprabhu was always scraping his head against the wall. And so it will cause great pain to the devotees to see Mahaprabhu in such way. So they got Shankar Pandit, one devotee, to become Mahaprabhu's pillow. So he wouldn't do that. So he would the whole night stay with Mahaprabhu and Gambhira. And you know how it is when you're the disciple, very hard to stay awake throughout the whole night. So he would kind of like doze off, and then he would suddenly come to his senses and be afraid. And Mahaprabhu would oftentimes, while he was sleeping, Mahaprabhu would come and give some blanket to him, cover him. Shankar Pandit is supposed to be watching Mahaprabhu, but Mahaprabhu would be watching him mostly sleeping. In any case, one night, so he comes into this ecstasy on the Jalkeli pastime. He comes out of Gambhira. So Shankar Pandit is alerted. He comes out and tells Swarup Damodar and the rest. So they all go searching for Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu, he goes to the ocean side. And because he's absorbed in Jalkeli pastimes, when he sees the ocean, he thinks it's Jamuna. So he just dives into the Jamuna. And he's completely absorbed in the Jalkeli pastimes. So he doesn't even realize that he's jumped into the ocean. He could easily be killed. Obviously, he's a Supreme Lord. All of nature moves in accordance with his heart. Still, from the conventional eye, it's a very dangerous thing. He's not even in consciousness. He's actually in samadhi. He just jumps into the Jamuna. Samadhigata, he's actually in the samadhi and he's absorbed in the water sports. And as he's absorbed in the water sports, he begins, I don't know, I don't recall if he begins singing these verses after or before. Anyway, as he's absorbed in the Jalkeli Leela, so one fisherman there in the middle of the night, he's fishing. So he catches one golden fish of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at that time. So later, Swarup Damodar, Ramananda Roy, and all the followers of Mahaprabhu, they're out looking for Mahaprabhu. So they see some fisherman is there, and he is walking around as if he is ghostly hunting. Just saying the names of Hari, saying the names of Krishna. So when they see him, they're like, yeah, he got the association of Mahaprabhu. Definitely got the association. So they went and asked this fisherman, have you seen Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? So the fisherman directly said, no, I have not seen him actually. Because he knew what Mahaprabhu, everyone in Puri knew what Mahaprabhu looked like. So when he caught Mahaprabhu, he's like, that's not Mahaprabhu. So he said, I have not seen. He said, I caught one golden fish was there I caught. And when I touched it, immediately I became ghostly hunted. And now I cannot stop saying the names of Hari. I'm actually quite afraid. The fisherman was actually quite afraid. So Mahaprabhu had this, not Mahaprabhu, Sarup Damodar Goswami, understanding that he's got the association of Mahaprabhu. He immediately said, don't worry, I'm an exorcist. I know how to, exorcise the ghost. So he spoke like that, and then the fisherman became calm. And then after he became calm, he said, you have certainly got the association of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because you have touched him. Now this ecstasy of Mahaprabhu has come to you. So the fisherman said, no, I have not gotten the association of Mahaprabhu. He said, the person that I caught, his limbs were stretched out and being held together only by the skin, and the transformation of Mahaprabhu's body are very intense. And so, okay, I didn't remember that part. He said like that, the more I chant Nrsimha, the more, so he chanted the Nrsimha mantra to get rid of the ghost. But the more he was chanting the Nrsimha mantra, the more the ghost was taking over the body. So he became completely frightened. So Sarup Damodar Goswami calmed him down. And in any case, so this Mahaprabhu, this is his contemplation. He's just lost in samadhi. That's the point I'm trying to make. So finally, when they said, no, this is Mahaprabhu, his body's going through some transformation, you take us to him. So they take, the fisherman takes Sarup Damodar and the rest to Mahaprabhu. And that time, they began to bring Mahaprabhu to external consciousness by chanting Harinam. So this is also an interesting thing. Many times, they would chant Harinam to pacify Mahaprabhu. When he was in these intense bouts of ecstasy, Harinam would be used to pacify him. And in case they bring Mahaprabhu to external consciousness, and he becomes a little bit perturbed, because he said, I was having darshan of Jalkeli Leela. And then he began singing the import of the Jalkeli Leela, these amazing verses from the Rasalila chapter dealing with the water sports. And Mahaprabhu begins, he gives immediately vocal prayer to that. And devotees, of course, and I think maybe Sarup Damodar Goswami then supplies more verses from the Bhagavatam. And this way, the bhajan is going on. This is bhajan life is like this: singing and contemplating, singing and contemplating, singing and contemplating. In Braja, ta anuragi jananugami, following the ragatmika bhaktas like Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Rupa Manjari. So if we do this, then he says, certainly we'll get this jewel of bhajan. We'll attain this jewel of bhajan Radha Krishna. So if we don't do it, then we won't get it. Simple as that. So this is the Palashruti, and this ends the Manashiksha of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. It's actually very simple statement on the one hand, very simple stuti or stava on the one hand. But for those who would be serious to take all the instructions seriously, you can imagine how challenging it would be. Just overcoming the mountain of obstacles mentioned in verses 4 through 7 would be no small task. And then after that, the nourishment on the path of Artha Pravritti, that is also a big responsibility. So in any case, for those who are actually interested in Krishna consciousness, then these sorts of things should become important to us progressively. If the works of the Goswamis aren't becoming more and more appealing to you with the passing of years in Krishna consciousness, then you're doing something wrong. That is a fact. If you have no interest to hear the works of the Goswamis, hear about Braja Leela from their mouths, then something has gone amiss in Krishna consciousness. You've missed the point. So that ends our little side study of Manashiksha. I'm going to stop there. If anyone wants to say anything, then you can say. Harisham says, the Goswamis always stress residing in Braja, right? How come? As students of Mahaprabhu, they didn't recommend staying in Jagannath Puri, following the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. More than following the footsteps of the Guru or the great soul is to follow the instruction. Because sometimes the example of the great souls cannot be followed, but their words can always be followed. So Parikshit Maharaj has also brought this up at the end of the Rasalila chapter, right? So he asked the question to Shukadeva Goswami, why Krishna is dancing with the wives of others. That was the question he asked. So then the answer Shukadeva Goswami says is that the great Ishwaras, the controllers, they are like fire. So just as whatever you put in fire gets digested by the fire. So whatever the great Ishwaras do, even if outwardly it appears sinful, it can be digested by them because of their great power. And it should not be imitated even in the mind. Just as one should not imitate Lord Shiva drinking the ocean of poison. So even in the mind, one should not imitate the activities of the Ishwaras, like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But their instructions should be followed. So then to that, Shukadeva Goswami says this thing. This is 10:33-31. This is an important verse. Ishwarana vacha satyam tataivar charitam kuchit. So the words, the vacha or the words of the Ishwaras, they are always true. Satyam, they are true always. And tataivar charitam kuchit. And sometimes when their example aligns with their words, then that example can be followed. So then he says, Tesham yasva vacho yuktam buddhimam tasamarchara. So of the two, the words and the example, the buddhimam, the one who is intelligent, he will swavacho yuktam. Yuktam means like, unite, yoga. Basically, of the two, he will follow the words and he will follow the examples that are in accordance with the words. So in that regard, because the Goswamis were deliberately instructed by Mahaprabhu to go to Braj, so following Mahaprabhu's instruction is more than following Mahaprabhu's examples in that sense. Of course, you can stay in any holy place. There's no problem there. Sri Navadvip Dham is there. Sri Braj Bhumi is there. Also Jagannath Puri Dham is there. Any Dham ideally should be resided in. But the idea is that whatever Dham you reside in, you reside in Braj. So Navadvip Dham is also considered non-different from Braj. Gambhira specifically, that's considered non-different from Braj. So the idea is if you can't live in Braj physically, then you should live there in your mind. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mind was Vrindavan. So he stayed in Jagannath Puri, but actually he lived only in Braj. He didn't live in any other place because his mind was Vrindavan. So if your mind can be Vrindavan, you can stay anywhere also. You can stay in New York City also. There's no problem. If your mind is Vrindavan. The thing is, Maya very compelling. So if your mind is not Vrindavan, then you're just in that particular location. So that is the challenge if you stay outside of Vrindavan. Whereas even if you're in bad consciousness in Vrindavan, you're still in Vrindavan and you get the benefit of being in Vrindavan. Of course, devotees will, sadhus, they speak a little heavy sometimes. They say, unless you do this, that, then you're not even staying in Vrindavan. Sometimes they speak in heavy way like that. But I also take a lot of inspiration from Prabodhananda Saraswati, who has many prayers that he would rather live in Vrindavan as a non-devotee than a fully realized devotee situated in one of the four rasas outside of Vrindavan. He has many statements like this in his Vrindavan on, what is that? Chandramrita? Is it Chandramrita? Mahimamrita. So we should live in Braj. You can't live physically, then you should live in the mind. In order for you to live in the mind, that means your vocal prayer and your contemplative life has to be pretty strong. Otherwise, you're definitely not living in Braj outside. No question. What is your understanding of why Mahaprabhu chose to relish Krishna Bhakti from a distance versus in Braja directly? I don't know, but it is said that Mahaprabhu in his Gambhir Leela, if you read in chapter 2, Madhya Leela, and also some chapters in the Ancha Leela. So Mahaprabhu, in order to satisfy his internal desires, right? He has three internal antaranga vichara, three internal considerations for appearing in this world. We hear from Kaviraj Goswami, which is coming from the mouth of Swarup Damodar Goswami, or the notebook of Swarup Damodar Goswami. What are the three desires of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or of Krishna? He has three internal desires for appearing as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The first is what? To understand Radha's love. The second is to understand the qualities that that love has access to. Because each type of love gives access to a certain degree of Krishna's qualities. And since her love is highest, it gives the full access to all of Krishna's qualities. So he wanted to see the beauty of the qualities that only that love has access to. That's the second reason. And the third is to experience the happiness of tasting those qualities. These are the three reasons of Krishna for appearing as Mahaprabhu. So it seems that Mahaprabhu was able to accomplish these three internal desires in Gambhira. So that Gambhira Leela is Mahaprabhu in the spirit of Sri Radha when Krishna has gone off to Mathura. Just like if you study chapter 47, 10th canto, the Brahmara Gita, where Radha is speaking to the bumblebee and her spirit of separation, her spirit of despair from Krishna. So Mahaprabhu is in that spirit of despair in the Gambhira Leela, where Mahaprabhu has gone off to Mathura. So I don't know why Mahaprabhu chose to stay there necessarily in Jagannath Puri, but Jagannath Puri is representing Dwarka or Kurukshetra, where Radha meets Krishna during the eclipse. You know, the Puri Dham is like representative of that, where her separation is extremely intense that time. Because now she's getting darshan of her Krishna, but it's not her Krishna. It can only be her Krishna when it's in Braj. It cannot be otherwise. That is the whole part of the whole meditation of Ratha Yatra, taking Krishna from Dwarka, from Kurukshetra back to Braj. So her separation is very intense, and Mahaprabhu is trying to relish that separation. That allows him to get the full gamut of Radha's love and to experience that. So that may be part of the reason. It's not, I haven't contemplated it very deeply. These are generic things that I've heard about it. Yeah, more could probably be said, but that's what we'll say for now. That's what I got.
Thank you. That was a really beautiful answer. And I'm grateful you didn't just say you wanted to relish separation, because I've heard that so many times, but it doesn't really mean anything to someone like me. So thanks for, I think the point that really stuck was this idea that he relished all of three of those internal desires in the Gambhira, which may not have been possible for him in Braj, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it probably could be possible in Braj, but Puri may have served as Udipan. You understand? Because that is where Radha's need is greatest. We hear this from our Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, maybe Srila Bhakti Thakur. Everyone's saying, let me do bhajan in Braj. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta said, I want to do bhajan in Kurukshetra. You may have heard this many times. Srila Sridhar Maharaj has told this about Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhupada. He said, I will do bhajan in Kurukshetra. So everyone's thinking, Kurukshetra, what? That is Parthasarthi. You know, what does that have to do with Gaudiya Bhakti? So no, it is not Parthasarthi. That is there where Radha meets Krishna during the eclipse, and her need is greatest that time. Because now she is with Krishna, but she's not with Krishna. So it's extremely painful. Already she had to go through the rite of passage of being separated from Krishna for 100 years or something. When he goes off to Mathura Dwarka, the Sudur Pravas is very intense. Finally, after so much long separation, you finally get to see your beloved, but something is amiss. So how painful it would be. It's just like something like, I don't know if it's something like, this is probably a poor comparison, but suppose you've been separated for a loved one. For years, they went off to war, and for years and years and years, you were separated. And finally, you came back and you found them dead. You know, it would be how painful that would be. That would be more painful than the actual separation part. You went through all the austerity to find them, and then you find them dead, how painful it would be. So long separation she endured when Krishna is in Prabhas, and then finally she meets him. And it's not really her Krishna. So that is Mahaprabhu's whole, you know, when he's in front of the Rath cart, he sings that verse from that mundane poetry book. And all the devotees are bewildered by that. Only Rupa Goswami and Sarva Damodar Goswami understood the import of that verse. So our need is very great there. So Puri may be serving as Udipan for that. Is the whole atmosphere serving as Udipan to help stimulate the relishment of that separation, which is like Radha at the height of her desperation and the height of her despair, which is a type of ecstasy, of course. And there's this Viraha Bhakti that is mostly propagated by Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So maybe in that sense, the Dham, Jagannath Puri Dham served as a super excellent Udipan for that. Otherwise, in one sense, Krishna is always in Braj, so the separation, that may not serve as powerful as a Udipan as something like Puri. That's a philosophical speculation, but contemplation about it.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Today, Gopi and myself talking about not feeling too inspired by this book, or I should say, didn't understand what we took home from this reading. It was not much. Then we realized because it is only for Rag Bhaktas, and in the end you answer our point that if we didn't feel attraction to Goswami text like this, we missed a point in Krishna consciousness. Jaya Nilo Prema Dan Bhajan came out of this context. When your loved one was found dead after a long separation, right? That's a nice bhajan that's a nice bhajan in relation to that point. Yes, so Vrindavan Bhakti is actually very simple. So it's so simple that it goes over the head of most conditioned souls, and even the Vaidhi Bhaktas. So now you can, from this, try to leverage why the yogis and practitioners in other yugas, they were not attracted to bhakti. Why they were not attracted? They say, oh, this is such a simple thing. We're used to these extensive taxonomies, these subtle points, Sankhya, how the mind works, and breaking that down, and how material nature works, breaking that down, and going to this angle and the other angle. This, everyone gets, we're very attracted to that. So this Raj Bhakti is a very simple thing. It's raga. Raga means that the attraction of the heart is a very simple thing. So yeah, the non-attraction to it is, I would say, in some ways, it also speaks to the complexity of our minds. We want those like taxonomies. There's this point, that point, the other point, and the other point, and then this point has these sub points, and that one sub point has these extra sub points, and it's like, yeah, we feel like we're getting something really profound when it's broken down in that way. And then you come to Raj Bhakti, they say just love Krishna. Oh, it's such a simple thing. What is the attraction in that? What is the attraction in just love for it? What? Just sing about your beloved. Just sing about and just think about your beloved. Oh, such a simple thing. They don't find so much attraction in that. So we don't find attraction, yeah. So that means our Ruchi not awakened enough for that. And that means also we have missed the point of Gaudiya Vaishnavism also. So, as I mentioned in 2 classes ago, I think we mentioned this point, that we should try to create our own Stavavalis from the remnants that has been given to us by Srimad Bhagavatam or by the Goswami Granthas. Stavavali means these prayers that can form your contemplation. Like if you need some inspiration, I think in the Brihabhavatamrita, last chapter, he gives the, what is that? The Bhakti Rasayana. It's like 25 verses from the 10th canto Bhagavatam, meant to be like a contemplation, Stavavali. Yeah, and if you don't want to do that, then okay, remain. We can remain as we are. But we won't be full Gaudiya Vaishnavas. We'll be something else. Why waste so much time in Sakya? Did I miss that? What are you saying?
I mean, you were saying about, like, we spend so much time in, Sankhya this, Sankhya that, let's find out different aspects of mind, creation, this element, that element, and then you come to Raj Bhakti, put all that aside, just try to love Krishna. It's like you're going all the long ways to finally come to, okay, you gotta do the simple job of loving Krishna.
Right. But we like that Sankhya, like break it down, categories and subcategories. And this is the challenge.
There's a mind map.
Yeah, where's the mind map?
Anybody draw a mind map of gopis? Yeah, that one.
So yeah. So this is we want to be represent means to represent or present all over again. So we want to represent Gaudiya Vaishnavism. That means we have to represent Krishna Bhakti Rasa. That means studying Bhakti Rasa Mrita Sindhu, maybe Ujjvala Nilamani. Otherwise, yeah, no access to these things. Or as I was saying yesterday, at least you can hear Gaur Lila. Maybe hearing Gaur Lila, our stone-like hearts, which causes non-attraction to the Krishna, simplicity, can be melted by Mahaprabhu's love. And then maybe we can become proper representatives of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Otherwise, not. Just like now, I see, this is not meant to be I'm not saying this to be mean, but I'm just saying it as an observation. So many of our devotees now, because we are preachers of whatever, some sort of preachers, we don't preach Gaudiya Vaishnavism. We preach, at best, we preach Bhagavad Gita, at best. And even that also is becoming less, in my observation. Now devotees are preaching neuroscience. So I was at Srimad Bhagavatam, and this is not meant to be mean also, I'm going to say by Srimad Bhagavatam class here in Bhakti Center. So the actual verse was about how Kamsa was told by Durga that Krishna was born elsewhere. That the person that you weren't to kill, he's already been born elsewhere. So so what is this nonsense that you would try to kill me? So in Prabhupada's purport, he talks about how Maya is Anuja. Anuja means the younger sister of Krishna. So there Prabhupada brings the Gaudiya Vaishnava point. How can Maya be the younger sister of Krishna unless Krishna was born first in Jasoda? That means Krishna was born first and then Maya born second. And then when Vasudeva came, he placed Vasudeva Krishna down in Krishna, Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, and then took the younger sister of Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, Maya. So in that way, devotees try to show that actually Krishna is Jasoda Nandana and not Devaki Nandana. That is our argument. And we have this shloka there. So that is Prabhupada's purport is that. So that is the Gaudiya Vaishnava Bhav. So the devotee giving class, he totally didn't even bring that up at all in the class. That point just got completely, maybe he just missed it, even though it was literally like a few sentences and that was the purport. So, and then he said, let's get into Kamsa's mentality from the perspective of neuroscience. So I was hearing the class, I was like, first of all, what's wrong with just saying Sattva, Rajas, Tamas? Like, why do we have to go through this complex, neuroscience and their speculations, which will probably change after another decade or so and change again? What's wrong with just the Bhagavatam's way of speaking Rajagun, Tamagun, Sattvagun, and describing psychology in those terms? That's also very comprehensive and very effective. No, neuroscience. So then he got into all the reptile brain and this brain and the other brain, and went through this whole thing. And I was just like, well, after the class, I talked to Vasudeva Prabhu and another devotee, devotees who are more invested in scriptural paradigm. So I said, these sorts of classes betray our lack of faith in the Shabda Brahman paradigm. That we feel that in order for our statements to be relevant, that we have to combine it with neuroscience and this, that, and the other. And I said, actually, according to us, because in the class, he said there was an evolution of the human brain. I was like, well, according to us, Lord Brahma gives the Vedas with all the cultural things from the very outside. There, Lord Brahma and then the Prajapatis from the very beginning, all culture is there. Not that culture gradually developed. All the cultural things are mentioned in Vedas, which come at the very beginning of the creation. So they're like two different paradigms there. But I say we're not so invested in that. So what to speak of preaching Bhagavad Gita, now we're preaching neuroscience. And Bhagavad Gita is not even mentioned hardly ever, except for when it's in accord with neuroscience or some other secular thing. What to speak of actual Gaudiya Vaishnavism, which is something much deeper than Bhagavad Gita. So how we will call ourselves representatives of Gaudiya Vaishnavism if we don't know these things, if we don't understand these things and integrate these things? What you are representing. They don't call as representative Gaudiya Vaishnava. That's made a little heavy. I'm not being, that's a little heavy statement. So I don't want to discount all the preaching efforts of, Prabhupada's followers in this movement. I think it's glorious. It's wonderful. The world needs more of them. Absolutely, 100%. I'm just saying to consider what it means to actually be a follower of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Sri Rupa Goswami. That means this Braj Bhakti. And if we don't come to that, then we've certainly missed the point. So everyone should go read Ayendra Prabhu's book, 2nd chapter. He has this whole passage, to hell with. Yeah, read that whole passage. He gives the heart of the Gaudiya Vaishnava spirit in that passage. That's what got him almost kicked out of Vrindavan. They really made, after he spoke this at Prabhupada's disappearance, they really made politics against him to get him out of Vrindavan, or out of Krishna Balaram at least, like very, 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 very heavy politics against him. But he caught the point. To hell with your neuroscience, to hell with this, to hell with your Vaidhi Bhakti, to hell with Vaikuntha, all sorts of things he brings in. If you didn't catch the real spirit of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, that's his point. So, yeah, if you want to be Rupa Nuga, then this should be brought up. All right, I think, so you want to say something? Looks like I think I want to say something too.
Hi, Prabhu. I want to go to another different topic. First of all, I really appreciate yesterday we made this point that how by reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, we can somehow feel a little bit heat of what Mahaprabhu was experiencing by trying to become sahidya with the literature and spending some time with it. And this is not meant to be like a glorification for my. It's meant to be a glorification for Guru Maharaj. Guru Maharaj always stresses the need to study Chaitanya Charitamrita, and that being the gateway to Krishna Lila or to the higher realms. He's always stressing that to study Gaura Lila and to hear Gaura Lila. And another thing which I wanted to ask you and your thoughts on this specific point about paying obeisances. Yesterday in the verse we heard about Atidhi, of the 5 most important things he mentioned about paying obeisances. And of course, it's in there in the Bhagavad Gita, Manana Madhvakto, that verse. And I was reading the other day this book by Obstacles in Bhakti, because you mentioned we should read that. And there also he was mentioning, Baba is mentioning that when you see devotees, the point regarding paying obeisances to even all the devotees. Also, he was saying usually we just bow our head, but it should be a proper obeisances. So I was saying this culture of obeisances seems to be a significant part of developing. It's quite external, but at the same time, it seems that it does something in terms of transforming the consciousness that is mentioned by Jagannath Das Goswami here in this Shiksha, and it's there in Bhagavad Gita, and Baba is also mentioning.
It is not external. The obeisance actually has 3 parts to it: the obeisance with the body, the obeisance with the mind, and the obeisance with the voice. I don't have the shloka available on me. I know where I can find it. But the obeisance has three divisions to it. So when the body is the first part, and then the mind is the second part, and then there's some mantra that is exerted, that is the third part. So this constitutes obeisance, these 3 parts. Vandanam, and it's one of the Navavidya Bhakti, this Vandanam, right? Vandanam actually means obeisance. We generally translate it as prayers, but it also means obeisance, because the stuti that comes out of the mouth when offering obeisance is also a type of vandana. So we call it as prayer, but it's obeisance. So it's not only external, it's a deep practice. So Srila Sanatana Goswami has written this book called Sri Krishna Lila Stava. And it seems that he imagined this particular literature. Sri Krishna Lila Stava goes through Krishna's Braja Lila and summary in simple verses, in which after he finishes summarizing a particular Lila, then he offers an obeisance. And so all the obeisances, even in the translation that is given by Gopi Pranadana, he's inserted where the obeisance is supposed to be. And so it becomes a practice. We also hear from Raghunath Das Goswami that he would offer like 1,000 obeisances to the Vaishnavas a day. Sankhya Purvaka Nama. So not only do you count the names, but you count your obeisances also. So it's a very deep practice. You see also in Braj, particularly, especially when you go to Govardhan, that is people's whole spiritual life. I'm pretty sure they don't chant japa. They don't do japa, vratas and all that. They just do obeisance. That is They do Dandavat Parikram around Govardhan, or they just walk around Govardhan. That is their life. That is their spiritual sadhana. That is it. They just do Govardhan Parikram, or they do Dandavat Parikram. And obeisance, that's obeisance, life of obeisance. As we hear from Rupa Goswami and BRS, you can perfect your bhajan even by one anga of bhakti. Even by this one anga of just offering the obeisance to the Lord, you can perfect your bhajan. And Kali Yuga, it should be combined with the Yuga Dharma. But even this one anga is sufficient. What to speak of other angas? Certainly, for sure, if you have culture of offering obeisance to all of life, then you will never have any complications with anyone. Srinada Pisani Chaina will be a natural sort of byproduct of that, constantly offering obeisances. No one will be upset with you because they see this fellow is always offering me obeisance. Even me, some insignificant person, is offering me obeisance. So it's a very powerful practice, actually. I think I shared this that once, because after I got wind that Krishna Lila Stava was about obeisances, I tried to do it one day in my room, offer 108 obeisances in accordance with Krishna Lila Stava. I think I made it to like 20 obeisances. I was like, this is too much. I was like, this is too much. I can't do it. You know, it was like, I felt like I was doing like push-ups basically, you know, and I was singing and then obeisance and sing a shlokan of it. I was like, this is too much. I can't do it. I haven't returned to the practice yet, but it's something that does sit in my psyche a lot. It's something very powerful. Obeisance with the body, obeisance with the mind, also obeisance with the voice. There's 3 types. It's a good practice.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for sharing that elaboration, specifically about the obeisances. And why did you mention that when you were doing that practice of doing 108, after some time it became like push-up exercise? I mean, what's the loss behind?
No, because I was standing up, right? And then I would offer the obeisance and then stand back up. So maybe like a burpee.
Yeah. No, but why did you stop? You felt like you were tired, or you said this is
It's a lot. You only try it, then you'll understand. When I got to Govardhan, I think I was with you only, and we went to buy the blanket, and we saw that one sadhu.
Yeah.
And he looked. I was like, man, he's looking really fit, you know. And then we were both amazed, like how fit this was. Like he had abs and everything. I was like, this sadhu looking fit. And then we saw him doing the 108 Dandavat Parikram, where they in one spot before moving on. So we were like, oh, that's how he's fit. So it's like push up basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sham Govi says playing 3 obeisances at Kishore for 3 altars sometimes feels too much.
No, what we feel proud after that, man. I did that.
1 week of what?
I mean, on the contrary, one feels proud after doing the obeisances. Hey, finally did that after playing the photo.
All right, Athena, you have something.
Hare Krishna. This goes back to just how attractive Krishna is. And I'm tying it back to one of our previous discussions where we land in the spiritual world is permanent. But I was just thinking of, for example, Lakshmi. I mean, she's with Narayan in Vaikuntha, and she gets attracted to Krishna, and she's jealous of the gopis. And so is there not even a possibility or slight chance that, say, in the Vaikuntha planets, Krishna Lila shows up, and you become attracted to Krishna, and you want to change, or you want to bounce, and you want to go to Goloka? I mean, yes, there's a whole argument of like when you're full, you're full, and but the point is Lakshmi, she even becomes attracted to Krishna, and she becomes jealous of the gopis. I mean, if that could happen to her, then I could assume that for sure can happen to any of the.
So there's one other detail with that. She wanted to enter Maharas, but she did not want to accept the mood of the gopis. She wanted to enter Maharas as Lakshmi Devi, so she was not allowed. So that is the other detail that is part of that meditation. So without everyone gets attracted to Krishna. Mahavishnu got attracted to Krishna, so he stole the sons of one Brahmin, so that Krishna would be forced to come and see him, lest Arjuna commit suicide. That is also discussed in 10th canto. So everyone is attracted to Krishna. So Lakshmi also gets attracted to Krishna. But she cannot change her status because she does not want to give up her bhav and embrace the bhav of the gopis in order to enter into that domain. So that's why everything in spiritual world has perfect coherence. So the love, the form of the love, and the place where that love is enacted, all of it has perfect coherence. So for her to enter into that would be incoherent. So this is also enacted in Mahaprabhu Leela. What is it called? The Hera Panchami festival. So this whole understanding is enacted there. You can read about it there, Majja.
So then are you saying even in Vaikuntha, one could become attracted to Krishna, but that attraction does now outweigh one's attachment or preference for their bhav or relationship to?
Basically.
Okay.
At least
So
we've not heard such things.
Okay, so in essence, that's also in support that once you're in the spiritual world, it's set. There's no changing.
Yes, because the blissful nature of bhav is such, or just bliss in general, it is such. So you'll see all the great souls, Uddhav, Lord Brahma, Bhishma, they all acknowledge the superiority of the gopis' bhav, but their predilection is still for their own bhav with Krishna, right? So like this, bhava is you can say bhava is a place of no return. Krishna says, having attained my place, my dhamma, then they do not return, right? So we say Krishna's abode is a place of no return. But we may say further that bhava is a place of no return. A particular bhava for Krishna, that is a place of no return. You become wholly sold out to your Lord, in a particular way. It is a place of no return.
Thank you so much.
Okie dokie. Then without further ado, we can pause there. We'll go back to our regular scheduled program, probably tomorrow. Tomorrow, if nothing comes up, then we'll start back up from chapter 14, 6th canto. We'll continue. So, Hari Om Tat Sat. Thanks a lot. Tomorrow is Akadashi. Yay. Okay. Have a great day. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Jagannath Das Goswami ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Go. Hari.